I still vividly remember that morning, a bitterly cold day in November, with mist still clinging to the mountain slopes. We followed narrow trails along the hills, searching for tracks and hunting wild boars. Of course, the hunt wasn't for sport, but to stop their destruction, as wild boars in this region are among the most invasive and dangerous pests. Our hunting team consisted of over 30 people, equipped with rifles, walkie-talkies, and extra ammunition, divided into 6 smaller groups. The location: the Pyrenees Mountains, straddling the border between France and Spain. At 6 a.m., right on schedule, we arrived at the mountain. This hunt was different from the usual. We were joined by a pack of elite hunting dogs, making the search for prey across this vast terrain much more effective. And we didn't have to wait long. The first targets revealed themselves. We quickly moved into positions with clear lines of sight. Through the fog, a group of wild boars emerged from behind the bushes. Without hesitation, we raised our rifles and picked carefully. The gunfire echoed through the mountains. Several wild boars were hit and dropped to the ground. The rest scattered in panic, fleeing deeper into the wilderness. After the initial success, our team continued moving deeper into the mountains, an area with ideal natural conditions for wild boars to thrive. The terrain here was vast, so we had to search carefully, especially by tracking footprints pressed into the earth. From my position with Paul, a herd of boars suddenly came into view. They bolted so fast that we were forced to open fire immediately. The herd darted away, but our hurried shot still managed to bring one wild boar down. Wild boars can reach speeds of up to 40 kilometers per hour. That's why missed shots are sometimes unavoidable, even for experienced hunters like us. As the sun rose higher, its light burned away the thick blanket of fog. In other positions across the mountain, my teammates had also successfully taken down several targets. The wild boars, with their coarse, black fur and raw power, were charging in panic as the deafening gunfire echoed through the mountains. We had lost count of how many shots we fired or how many boars had fallen. Yet, in that moment of chaos, many still managed to escape the barrels of rifles controlled by even the most seasoned hands. We were determined to track down the herd of wild boars that had fled. They quickly disappeared into an area thick with underbrush. But before some of them could escape, we managed to bring down a few more. There was no time to hesitate. I took aim and quickly pulled the trigger. Two shots rang out like thunder across the mountainside, and just moments later, the wild boar was completely taken down. Even after countless hunts, the endurance and fierce survival instinct of this animal still command my deepest respect. Before we could even rest our hands, another target appeared, forcing my friend to immediately raise his rifle. This lone boar sprinted away at incredible speed, cleverly weaving into the bushes and escaping, leaving behind a cloud of dust after a series of terrifying gunshots. In the end, the wild boar was quickly taken down by a shot that hit a critical spot. Suddenly, another one appeared as if to make up for the earlier failure. This time, I tried to stay focused, aimed precisely, and waited for the right moment. A lethal shot to its weak point made the boar collapse and go completely still. By the afternoon, we were tracking wild boars in the southern area of the place where the herd had fled earlier that morning. Realizing I couldn't afford to miss the chance, I fired quickly, but the bullet veered off course and the target vanished into the thick trees. Though we were already exhausted, we patiently waited and continued searching for more targets. There was a wild boar appeared. And this time, I was determined to redeem myself with a decisive shot, ending the hunt with a convincing victory. That wraps up today's hunt. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. For now, goodbye and see you in the next video. Anatolia has a complex terrain with hills and valleys interspersed with swamps and swamps. Before that, we had the opportunity to hunt wild boars in the swampy area in the south of the Anatolian steppe. Because the terrain is swampy and muddy, we used a special vehicle, an airboat. This boat has an engine that is a giant fan that creates a great force to help the boat move on the dry swamp. Thanks to its fast speed, we were able to shoot down many harmful wild boars. However, the hunting trip in the Anatolian steppe brought us more drama and experience. The hunting trip lasted one day, starting before the sun had even appeared. After more than 1 hour of traveling from early morning, at 8 a.m., we encountered a herd of wild boars, all of which were adults. I raised the gun, my heart pounding. Amir whispered, "Shoot the leader or they will scatter." I took a deep breath, held it steady, and pulled the trigger. The explosion echoed through the mountains. A wild boar fell with a screech. The remaining herd was startled and scattered. That we followed the trail of the remaining wild boars, but because of the long distance, it was difficult for us to hit these wild boars. However, this herd of wild boars was probably exhausted and could not run far. We chased and shot down a few more wild boars. This increased the number of wild boars, which we shot down to nearly 10. As the sun rose, Amir and I decided to hike up to get a better look at the boar herd. Sure enough, Yusuf radioed that they had spotted a large herd on the slopes of the opposite bank. I aimed carefully, waiting for the moment when the boar stopped and fired. A single shot hitting the weak spot, the boar was hit and rolled down the mountainside. In the afternoon, we decided to move south to ambush the wild boars. This area is where wild boars often pass through to get into the farm. Sure enough, it didn't take long to wait. The wild boars appeared. Not letting it escape, Amir quickly shot down the wild boar, knocking it down on the spot. Wow, this wild boar was huge. Can you guess how many kilograms it weighed? The larger the wild boar, the more aggressive it is, and the more destructive it is compared to other wild boars. Therefore, we must hunt down these adult wild boars at all costs. As you can see, the terrain in this mountainous area is rugged, with steep slopes that make it difficult for us to move. The wild boars are very fast, and the bushes provide easy shelter for them. Without observation skills, it is difficult to detect the wild boars. These wild boars relied on the rugged terrain and escaped our repeated shots. "Next time I won't let them escape," said the Emir. Amir and I moved down to a position near the ravine. The soil here is more humid, so the shrubs and grasses grow well. If you don't observe carefully, you might not be able to detect their location. At a distance of hundreds of meters, this wild boar was taken down. To do that, what do you need? Simply a scope attached to a gun. To hunt wild boars or any wild animal, we need a scope to make the shot more accurate. In the late afternoon, we moved to the foothills near the farm to finish the hunt. Hunting wild boars did not bring us any joy, but because of the surrounding farm, the wild boars needed to be exterminated. This trip is not just a hunt, it is a journey connecting people and mountains, instinct and skill, tradition and modernity. Please like and subscribe to the channel to watch more videos. Texas is home to the largest population of feral hogs in the United States, estimated at nearly 3 million, causing nearly $100 million in damage to the agricultural sector each year. In response, Texas has resorted to everything from trapping and gun hunting to more daring methods, chasing wild hogs by helicopter. This measure is not only an effort to control the herd, but has also become popular as an adventure tourism service for shooters who love challenges. Of course, not everyone can participate. Pilots need a valid Federal Aviation Administration pilot license, and shooters like me need a specialized license, such as an aerial wildlife management permit. With all the necessary paperwork and careful preparation, we began our trip. The weather today is quite nice, clear, little wind and light sunshine, perfect for a helicopter hunt. From above, I could see dense tracts of wild boars running across the sand. Then a herd of about 10 pigs came into view. I signaled the pilot to lower altitude, raised my gun, and pulled the trigger repeatedly. One by one, the pigs were hit, falling down one by one on the road. It couldn't have been a better start. Still excited, the pilot suddenly pointed to the northeast. Another flock appeared. Then the gun was loaded again. The helicopter glided low. I calmly aimed, starting with the last ones in line. Each shot was decisive. A new batch of prey was taken down. Started to move into an area with sparse bushes, but still open enough to observe. Wild boars are extremely alert and slow to react to the air. So, once I spotted my prey, especially those running alone, it took me less than 2 minutes to finish them off cleanly. I strained my eyes to find every trace. Then suddenly, another herd appeared. It seems that the helicopter's low altitude to reduce glare caused a lot of noise, which alerted the pigs. They immediately scattered and ran in different directions, making aiming difficult. I thought the drama had died down, but as the helicopter tilted into a new curve, I caught a glimpse of a pig in the middle of the open field. Immediately, the pilot tilted the helicopter slightly towards the target. I seized the opportunity, steadied my gun, and pulled the trigger. Starting to turn golden. We had to make the most of our last few minutes as the helicopter hunt only lasted until dusk. I aimed at the largest leader and pulled the trigger. I successfully took down the prey with just one shot. Meanwhile, my friend Jake had already managed to kill a few other members of the pack. Here. How do you feel about today's hunt? Leave your comments in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow the next dramatic hunts. I couldn't sit still any longer when I saw my fields being ravaged by wild boars. Every time they came through, my family's entire harvest was wiped out. All the effort and care invested for more than half a year went down the drain. And this wasn't just my problem. The whole village, even the entire region in Georgia, was suffering because the wild boar population was becoming increasingly rampant. So, when I heard about a local hunting trip being organized, I decided to join. Not just for my own fields, but to help stop the spread of this invasive species. We arrived at the forest edge early in the morning. In front of us stretched a wide clearing covered in young grass, dotted with a few low shrubs. The air was fresh and pleasantly cool. Everyone was eager to begin the hunt. After about half an hour lying in ambush under a tree, the first target of the day emerged and immediately entered my sights. I gripped my rifle tightly, waiting for the moment it slowed its pace, then decisively pulled the trigger. A precise shot brought the wild boar down on the spot. A smoother start couldn't be hoped for. Elsewhere, my friend Michael and his team also spotted a small wild boar. Perhaps sensing the lurking danger, it hurriedly fled. Although Michael reacted quickly, unfortunately his bullet missed the target, allowing the prey to escape by a narrow margin. The whole team started moving deeper into the dense forest filled with tangled shrubs. At this point, the hunting dogs were released to track the wild boar scent. These four-legged friends were as sharp as owls and never disappointed me. Shortly after, a boar was driven out of the bushes by the dogs. Seizing a moment, I raised my gun, aimed straight, and pulled the trigger. The boar was hit and fell down right in front of the bush. A clean shot. By noon, the hunt inside the forest was still lively. Suddenly, a series of dog barks erupted from the trees ahead. I immediately became alert, straining to listen. Amidst the barking was the rustling of dry leaves. The wild boars were approaching. I gripped my gun tightly, ready to shoot. Here they come, not just one, but a whole herd. Seizing the opportunity, I fired continuously. The boars scattered in panic behind the bushes. Amid the chaotic scene, a few boars lay fallen. After a short lunch break, the hunt continued, this time in the low hills behind the forest. I chose a high vantage point for ambush, my eyes fixed on the open space ahead. Time seemed to freeze, and when a dark figure appeared through the bushes, I pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang! Dust flew everywhere, but the boar was not hit. What a pity. Well, I'll wait for another chance. The day is still long. Moving to a barren land with no green trees, I stared intently. Then the chance for revenge came. A wild boar appeared. Although the shot was from quite a distance, I decided to take the risk. Looking through the scope, holding my breath, and gently squeezing the trigger. A precise shot, the boar collapsed. Even so, I could still hear my heart pounding in my chest. Such narrow victories always bring a breathless and satisfying feeling. Just as expected, another pitch-black wild boar appeared, busily rooting through the soil, completely unaware of the danger lurking nearby. It seemed like it would be an easy shot. I calmly raised my rifle, took careful aim, and pulled the trigger. But the bullet only grazed the animal's back, startling it and sending it bolting away. Today's hunt ends here, though there were some missed shots that left a touch of regret. The thrill of stalking, pulling the trigger, and those heart-pounding moments remain unforgettable experiences. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow more thrilling hunts.
This trip was more than just a regular hunt. It was a life or death mission. Although I fought, trained, and faced countless dangers during my time in the military, I've never encountered a creature as tough and persistent as the wild boars. That's why, in today's hunt, this swamp environment became a true battlefield. Holding my rifle tightly, I understood one thing clearly. Every decision, every shot must be precise. One bullet, one life. That's the only rule I needed to follow. Swamp-dwelling wild boars not only destroy the ecosystem but also cause immeasurable damage to the surrounding environment. They wade through wetland areas, disrupt plant life, and tear up rice fields and gardens. Especially in the swamp, wild boars can easily hide and escape, making them incredibly difficult to pursue. Compared to land hunting, hunting wild boars in the swamp requires us to move more slowly and patiently, or risk slipping or losing our bearings. The swamp, a challenging environment, is ironically the perfect place for wild boars to hide, especially in murky mud pools or thick vegetation. During the journey through the swamp, we constantly battled strong currents and had to duck under tangled branches to keep the boat from crashing. Eventually, a small boat brought us to a completely unfamiliar area. Suddenly, one of my teammates spotted the silhouette of a large wild boar. Without hesitation, we climbed ashore and fired as soon as we saw it. The boar collapsed after a single shot. Soon after, we locked onto our next target, a giant boar weighing up to 120 kilograms. It was clear that this land was the ideal habitat for these monstrous wild pigs. That afternoon, I traveled alone down the river. The current had calmed since the morning. From a distance, I spotted my first target, a boar soaking in the mud. I carefully approached. Just as it stood up to flee, I took my shot and brought it down within seconds. Muddy wetlands like this are never short of boar activity. A fully grown wild boar was sunbathing nearby. It sensed danger and started to run, but my two quick shots ended that escape for good. Spotting a boar trying to escape, I stopped the boat and set up an ambush to cut it off. It panicked and turned to flee in the opposite direction, but it was too late. The gunshots echoed through the empty swamp, ending its escape. Leaving the forest and heading downstream to return, I noticed small muddy patches, clear signs that boars had passed through. I moved in and there it was. Without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. The wild boar let out one agonizing cry before collapsing. With success in hand, I headed home, tension and satisfaction mixing after a challenging day in the swamp. After a night's rest, we were back at the swamp early in the morning. Wild boar tracks were visible all over the soft ground, deep prints showing where they had passed. We followed the tracks, and suddenly the dogs began barking, signaling the prey was near. I approached cautiously. As the black silhouette emerged, I seized the moment and pulled the trigger. Wow, just look at it, a massive wild boar with coarse fur and razor-sharp tusks. Our next target that day was a group of tenacious boars hiding in a swamp near a residential area. It didn't take long. The airboat brought us right to the first target. We immediately launched our attack, giving the boars no chance to react. They scattered in panic in every direction, trying to escape, but there was no getting away from our determined pursuit. Our hunting results kept piling up, and with every step, it became clear this hunt was not only tactical but also a test of patience and determination in our effort to control the wild boar population. Time flew by, and before we knew it, evening had fallen, but the battle wasn't over yet. Our agile hunting dogs led us to another wild boar. I moved in and, without hesitation, fired a decisive shot. The target dropped instantly. The dogs were outstanding today. Once again, they guided us to another boar. I quickly aimed and fired. The boar didn't even have time to react. It fell without a sound. It seems that the skills have improved a lot through these hunting trips. These precise, decisive shots are not only the result of experience, but also the perfect blend of keen observation, patience, and refined tactics. Thank you for following this journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.